Hi, my name is Phill, as Dave mentioned. Thank you for the introduction. I'm here today to talk to you about the recent terrorist incident that has so terribly affected the Imperial Empire, and provide a little bit of information about my insight into the Google Home that was used in their research, in their destruction of our orbital battle station. I've been working for the Empire willingly for the last 7 years. Willingly join or die, willingly for the last 7 years as an analyst. Also started a blog, This Week in Forensics, where I read everything that I can find about the digital forensics community, and also my personal research blog, Think DFIR. But we're here to talk about the recent destruction of the DS-1 orbital battle station. Since the destruction, we've identified the rebel base, and we sent our top our available forensicators were sent to examine, to provide investigative support. The investigators gave us they gave us one question. They just want to know everything. And that wasn't really helpful to me, so I wrote down a series of questions that I would like to have provided, but I would like to determine so that I can assist their investigation. So the first thing I want to know is what access point was it connected to? Were these devices connected to each other? Because, of course, just because the home and the phone were in the same location does not necessarily mean that they were used to interact. What accounts were they linked to? What has the device heard, which is probably our most important part? And then the Bluetooth devices and any location information that can be found. So I was provided with a Google Home Mini and an Android device to investigate. And so I thought, where should I start? And I'm going to start with the phone. So the phone examination is going to be the easiest part because there's a lot of research about that, and I know what I'm doing. So I started by looking at the Google Home app. This app is basically the Chromecast app that's been renamed, is now relating to Google Homes. So that's why the app ID is the Chromecast.app. And it's mainly used for the device interaction. You're going to be able to control the settings, set up the Google Home devices. And there's actually no web interface that you can use to interact with the devices as well. So the first thing I want to do is provide an extraction, obtain an abstraction so that I can examine this app data. The phone that I had to examine was a Nexus 5, and was running the Home app version, or a previous version. So of course I'm going to run an ADB backup first and see what there was. Unfortunately, not much. The Google Home app didn't really back up very much using the native ADB process. And as a result, I was left with only obtaining a physical. This was very helpful. There was a lot of data, and so then I could direct my investigation after that directly to the data folder that had everything that I was looking for. I also tested the iOS section. I had a test iOS device just for interest. And the iOS is a little bit easier. Everything you're going to get comes out of a regular backup, and it's all in SQLite and plists. It's very simple to analyze. So this is a bit hard to read, but we've got a few screens from examining the physical device itself. Just looking at the app drawer, the account drawer, I can see that there is one user account. And from there, I can also query the actual Google Home that I'm on the network with. And I can see that there is one account named rebelsYavin, rebelsonYavin@gmail.com with a photo. That's really useful. It means I know that there's only one account that I need to look for and only one account I need to download. It will also indicate every other app that is synchronized with, is used to interact with this device. Every other email address, sorry. If I take my own phone and connect it up to the network, I can obtain a little bit of information, but not as much as I need. I'll be able to tell the username and the picture, but I won't be able to get the email address. And I can also get the device name. Moving on, we can look at the target device again, and we can see all of the devices that that user account has at its disposal. In this instance, it was just the one, which was called Rebel Base. The device address is something that's quite important. You can have a look if you click in through the device menu, and you can see that the device address is, in this instance, Lucas Valley Road in California. The important thing to note about this is, whilst you can very easily see it and you can very easily read it in the XML file, it's set by the user, not by GPS, because the Google Home device was not found in California. This information also shows up in all of the cloud activity under current location in My Activity, so it's very easy to get at, it's very easy to interpret. The home graph is the most important file that you can find in the app data. So it's basically going to be called home graph and then a base 64 string of the user's account email, and there will be one for each user on the device that has interacted with the Google Home so much as they've got a Google Home linked to their account. Now, unfortunately, this is encoded in Google's protobuf encoding, and I haven't been able to figure out a good way of interpreting it and decoding it properly, so we're kind of left with just reading the strings. Thankfully, a lot of the ones that we need pop up quite easily. So the first thing we want to look at is our Gmail address. That's fine. We already know that. We've got what looks like an ID, and we'll talk about it more as it's very important. It's the Cloud Device ID. And we've also got another ID about the Google account. And this account ID is set up for every single user on Gmail. It's easier to decode if you've got Google Plus set up, but that's not necessarily always the case. But that's going to be useful for later as well. So just to summarize what we found on the phone, we've got our email, we've got our account ID, we've also got the OAuth token, which is going to be great when we need to download cloud data, our device location, our cloud device ID, and the Wi-Fi password. So that's answered a few questions already. Now we're going to look at the Google Home. This is an actual product, by the way. If you would like to support all of those that were lost in the recent destruction, please go to the link below. So there's two things that we can do to examine the Google Home. There's querying it while it's live, or we can examine the internals. It depends on your use case. I'm going to go all out because this is for a terrorist incident, so I need to make sure that I'm getting as much information as possible. But in some instances, if you do not want to destroy the device, examining the internals is going to not be the right way to work. So first you want to do is you want to find the home itself on the network. You can easily query the device on the Home app, or you can use something like Phill, which is a network scanner. The caveat is that it will scan the network, send that information up, and provide you with IPs, names, MAC addresses, and device types that might not be suitable to your situation. So in that case, then you can always use an map to scan your network and see what you will find. The nmap command down the bottom will show you all the Google Home devices, and if you get rid of the 10,001, which is the highlighted port, then that will show you the Chromecast devices as well, because they're both built off the same thing. You can query them the same way. So we want to find as much information we can from the live device, and there's two methods of doing so. I know I said that Google only let us know that there was one, and that's the one they only want us to use, which is the Home app. But unfortunately, that won't give us all of the information that we would like to find. So I built a script called HomeSpeak, which I'll be releasing shortly. It was based on some work by a GitHub user named Rithvik Vibhu, who found that you could send GET and POST requests to the Google Home device as long as you're on its network, and you will receive JSON data back. There are kind of two methods of doing this. It depends on the situation. If you're at the scene, you can jump on the network, you can send the queries once you've got the IP, but if you've opened the exhibit bag and there's your Google Home, you might not be able to do that. In that instance, the great thing about home devices is when you plug them in, they shoot up their own network, and you can connect to that. If you try to query that with the Home app, you will not actually be able to get any data. It will be thinking that you're trying to set up a brand new device. I don't want to set up a brand new device. I want to find all the information on the current one. So you can send a couple of requests that are really going to get you as much information as you need. There's a lot of information in there that's not really relevant, but the main stuff that I found was the Cloud Device ID, which we found earlier, and the Bluetooth devices. That Cloud Device ID, I just want to point out, is set up as soon as you initially set up that device. If you restart the device, it'll be fine, but if you reset the device manually, you'll get a brand new Cloud Device ID. So we want to put that all together. We've got our Cloud Device ID from the Home Graph, as well as our account and our Gmail address. And on the other side, we've got our cloud device ID, which is great because now we can put them both together, they match, and we can use that to download the cloud data. Well, use that to confirm that this is the account that we need to download, because the last thing you want to do is find a home device and a phone and download the wrong person's account. There can be legislative issues if you do that, and so we just have to make sure first. The other thing I wanted to bring up was Bluetooth devices. Just a useful piece of information. If you go and query the device with the home app, you will find all the connected Bluetooth devices as well as the date that they connected initially. This doesn't matter if you're on the suspect device or in this case the investigator's device. That will work just fine and it'll give you that information. But unfortunately, it doesn't give you much more. With HomeSpeak, you're able to send the query and get a bit more information, which I'll just make a bit bigger. So we've got the bond date, the date that it was initially connected, as well as the last connect date. It's called last connect date, but it means last interaction. So if you connect or disconnect, depending on the connected flag, it will log the date, which is great for determining when maybe the rebels were last at that base at that date. We've also got the MAC address as well as the device name, which is just a bit more to really confirm what we found on the home app itself. But that might not be good enough. We might want to go a bit further, and we might want to pull the device apart. So this is the inside of the Google Home Mini. They're fairly easy to pull apart, and the Google Home devices aren't much harder. And inside we'll find a 256 meg Toshiba chip. There's not a lot of space for any data on there, realistically, compared to the Echo devices that have, I think, 4 gig of data. We're just looking at 256 megs. So I got one of my fellow convicts, Imperial officers, to help read the data back for me. He was able to use just regular chip-off methodology, in this case a rework station, to remove the chip, clean it up, and read it with something like the data man. An associate, Scott Lallis, was able to help by sending some of the chips to Dataman, and they built a profile, which means that everyone with a Dataman is able to read the NAND chip pretty easily. So after we've read the data, this is what we can see. Don't worry if you're sitting at the back, I can't read this either. Most of it is garbage. Unfortunately, there isn't a really good file system that we can parse out. And so we're kind of just left with looking at strings. It's unfortunate. If anyone is able to help figure out what the file system is, that would be great. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to figure it out. Thankfully, strings comes up with a lot of great information. So from here, we're just going to look for the Bluetooth devices that we found previously. And I can see there's actually another Bluetooth device that I didn't know about. It's called Luke's iPod Touch. We've got a MAC address there. We haven't got dates, which is not great. And I don't actually know if this is a deleted file or this is an allocated file with a log that just hasn't been cleared out yet. But hey, that just means I know that there was another device that we didn't seize, that we weren't able to examine. And maybe the terrorists took it with them. This can also be really, really useful if someone says, I was never there, I didn't know anything about that person. You've now got another record to look at. We can also find the Google account ID, which can also be very useful, as we found it before. If you're able to take that to Google, they might be able to reverse that for you and tell you what the account was, give you the information. I wasn't able to ask Google that question, but they might be able to help. This can be really useful if all you've got is the Google Home and you need to find out whose account do I need. There's also the cloud device ID on there, but obviously you've got the device. So we want to put it all together. We've now got the cloud device ID and the account information on the left. We've got the NAND read, and the HomeSpeak will give us the account ID and the cloud device ID, which is great. Now we've just got the cloud data that we want to look at. So cloud is basically where we're going to be looking for all of the interactions that we really care about. There's not really much found on the device itself or on the app with regards to any of the queries, any of the audio, anything really outside of the Bluetooth device interaction. So I'm going to cover a couple of ways to get this cloud data and examine it, and then we're going to talk about what data was found that was very useful to me. So you can go to myactivity.google.com, and that will show you all of the interactions for that account. I'm only going to focus on Assistant and voice and audio, but if you have a Google device and you haven't been to that website, you will be scared at how much information is tracked and logged. But the good thing is, if you filter for Assistant and voice and audio, you'll see all of the interactions with the Google Home device. It will identify that a Google Home device was used, not which Google Home device. So if you've got 2 Google Homes, it might not be able to tell you which one's which. And the good thing is it will also identify if there is a known user's voice used. If 2 accounts have been set up on the same device, it will tell you who said what. You may also come into problems if there are 2 users set up on the account, because you'll need to access 2 different cloud accounts. To download this data, you're going to be using Google Takeout, which will get you all the spoken words. It'll get you all of the responses, all of the audio, and the location data if it's set. But as I said, that location is set by the user, even though location services is required when you turn the app on to set the device up to begin with. The only downside with using takeout is it, A, notifies the individual that you're performing a takeout, and it also will download everything. So if time is of the essence, or you're required to only obtain a small amount of data, then Google Takeout may not be the way to go. Unfortunately, currently, it is one of the only ways that you're going to get the most concise, the most complete piece of information. Alternatively, I tested a number of cloud data acquisition tools. These tools are basically the only ones that were able to provide the information that I needed and filter it out in the right way. Some of the tools will provide you with the Google search information, but not actually determine which device was used. Was it the phone? Was it the app? Sorry, was it the home device? In the last 3 days, Google changed the API, and every tool has broken with regards to cloud data acquisition of this specific information. So Takeout is going to be your best bet, but once that's fixed, I'm sure all the vendors are on it, we'll be able to get all that information again. These tools are really good at helping you search, sort, report on that information. And so it's a good idea to, if you can, get the takeout information as well as do an API acquisition, and then just compare the 2. I know that some of the vendors are also working on ingesting that takeout data because they don't necessarily incorporate it in a really good way that allows you to easily review it. All right, so specifically about our case, what did we find? We found that someone was asking, do they have anything on their calendar? Unfortunately, in this instance, Google didn't tell me what they actually found. The home would have responded in some way, but it doesn't always tell you what they said. So I downloaded the calendar from the cloud. And that's pretty damning that they wanted to blow up the Death Star the next day. I don't know why they call it the Death Star. I think that's crass. It's always been the DS-1 Orbital Battle Station. But anyway. They also were asking curiously about the weather on Hoth. So, I mean, that's a clue, isn't it? I feel like that's a clue. And interestingly, Google responded, and it said, Hoth's climate is cold. Well, yeah, Hoth's climate is cold. But why would they be asking if that's not where they wanted to go next? Just a hint, though, when Darth Vader says they're in the Hoth system, just go along with it. It's just a trick. All right, so for a generalized process, what should we do if we're faced with a Google Home and a phone at the scene? The first thing we're going to do is get a physical acquisition. It's going to be the only way that we're going to get the home graph information. And from there, we can identify the account and the cloud device ID from the home graph, potentially more information as well. I know that there's also the date that the Google Home was added to that account, but I haven't been able to pull that information out yet. We're then going to query the home device. We can get the cloud device ID from there, as well as other Bluetooth data if that's of relevance. And from there, we can put those 2 things together to confirm that that's what we need with the password or the OAuth token to pull the cloud data. So overall findings. What did we find? What do we know from all of this? We know that the room was probably related to someone named Luke. We know he had a calendar entry to destroy the Death Star. And his home location was set to the Skywalker Ranch, which could be a previous location because we didn't find any homes on the Skywalker Ranch. We found them on Yavin. We've got the last date and time that the phone was at the base, which could be the last time they were at the base as well. And we also know that he was asking about the weather on Hoth, so we've got a pretty decent idea of where we should look next. Further work is really where I would like to look next to try and build out the research for this. I would like to look into parsing the home file system and decode the proto file, but at the moment I haven't been able to figure that out, as well as looking further into the iOS app data in case that comes up. There are a few other features and a few other devices planned in the future with regards to communication. I wasn't able to test that as it wasn't useful, it wasn't provided in this situation, but it's going to be coming across many IoT devices, so that's something to look forward to. Lastly, I'd like to thank a number of people that provided me with their tools to test. All of these companies were very gracious in providing me with their tools, and so I thought I'd give them a shout out. And I know a lot of them will be working on improving this data as it's only going to get more and more as time goes on, as well as a number of people for helping me with the research and providing me with test data. Cool. Thank you.